Hello, everyone. Welcome to the One United podcast. This is Wali, and as of now, it's just me. But we have another friend who is dropping in, and let's just welcome him as well. Anshuman Joshi, क्या हाल है भाई? आ गए आप?
Hello, Wali. Hello. Long time. Yeah, I'm doing good.
Yeah.
Batao.
All good, bro. All good. Are you well now? मैंने सुना कि you were not well.
Uh,
Everything.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, doing better than yesterday and the day before. So yeah, just hoping that it gets better only. So yeah.
That's great. That's great. यार कल के मैच के बाद थोड़ी सी तबीयत और ज़्यादा आई होप बेहतर हुई होगी उसके बारे में थोड़ा सा डिस्कस करते हैं यहाँ पे सो अंशुमन
Okay.
पहले तो वीडियोस में तो थे नहीं तो इसमें आ गए तो लेट्स सबसे पहले कल की परफॉर्मेंस के बारे में बात करते हैं व्हाट्स योर ओवरव्यू ऑन द परफॉर्मेंस दैट वी like got to see were you pleasantly surprised by Manchester United because this is something we were not expecting at all.
Yeah, shock is the word I would definitely use because this is the United. It's easy to say that this is probably one of the worst United sides of all time. And on the other hand, this is at Athletics home, and not only are they not a bad team on paper, they have not been a bad team all season. Like they are in Champions League contention in La Liga, and up until halfway through the season, they weren't that far off the top as well. So that tells us that in a season where we have talked about Barca and Real being very competitive at the top and Atleti not too far behind, Athletic have also been there. So this is a competitive team that United have gone on to and just took apart 3-0. So even though I still, because this is United, our United, I'm not entirely sure that the 3-0 goal line should be enough for us. But yeah, definitely a very shocking performance in terms of how we were able to just score 3 goals and not concede any.
एक्चुअली यस यार अगर बात करें हम लियोन वाले मैच में भी वी आई थिंक स्कोर्ड 3 goals in 6 minutes कल के मैच के बारे में भी बात करें वी स्कोर्ड 3 goals in like 10-15 minutes so we play
Mm-hmm.
in phases that's basically been the nature of our team for quite some time now and I do agree with you 3-0 है but I am disappointed with the second half display I thought कि अगर एक और गोल अगर लगता ना तो थोड़ा और comfortable feeling आती because if you remember last season it was against Coventry in the FA Cup semi-finals we were cruising towards the finals. Anyway, we got there eventually and we won the cup. But we were 3-0 at around the 60th, 65th region mark, and then you know what happened after that. If it wasn't for
Exactly,
that,
exactly.
if it wasn't for that 2-0, then it would have been 4-3 and Coventry would have actually won that game. But
Hmm.
somehow we managed to win that. I don't know how we do it यार अंशुमन क्या कहना चाहते हो यार इसके बारे में because sometimes यार फुटबॉल के बारे में हम स्टैट्स के बारे में बात करते हैं टैक्टिक्स के बारे में बात करते हैं एक्सेट्रा एक्सेट्रा कभी कभार लॉजिक इट जस्ट गोज आउट ऑफ द विंडो और वो जो हेरिटेज होती है फुटबॉल हेरिटेज जिसके बारे में बात करते हैं दैट जस्ट किक्स इन
Yep.
और वो यूनाइटेड के केस में आई थिंक चल रहा है यूरोपा लीग में
Yeah, definitely because हम प्रीमियर लीग में देखते हैं कोई उम्मीद नहीं है आ रहे हैं पिट के चले जा रहे हैं मतलब कोई भी अपनी टीम है जाके वो ना घर में फॉर्म है ना घर के बाहर फॉर्म है एंड यूरोपा लीग में वी आर अनडिफीटेड सो जस्ट इट्स quite bewildering and worrying in different ways that form has not picked up in the league under Amorim at all. But yeah, at this point, it doesn't really matter, both for us and Tottenham, and we kind of have to keep an eye on them as well. That doesn't really matter what we do in the league in the last 4 games. And all that matters is that we pick up that trophy at the end and kind of make sure that whatever that has happened in the league, which is the bigger indicator of where United are headed, kind of the punishment for those poor performances kind of becomes less severe because we would be in the Champions League if we win. So yeah, very bewildering. And if there ever was going to be a time for United players to look at the club's history and find some level of inspiration to just go through the line, get through the line, this is it. Doesn't get any bigger, and it doesn't get any easier for them also.
exactly and like we were talking about Europa League or Premier League it's been a contrasting figure so I'll just throw a start over here so Manchester United have scored 39 goals from 34 games in the Premier League this season which is 1.1 per game. Whereas in the Europa
Hmm.
League, they've scored 31 goals in just 13 games, which is basically 2.4 goals per game. So, like I said,
Hmm.
yeah, logic goes out of the window when it comes to Manchester United. Being invincible in the Europa League, and you can
Hmm.
talk slack about the Europa League, but you still have teams. You still have some good teams. You have Bodo Glimt who are in the semi-finals. They
Hmm.
actually caused a lot of trouble to us. You had Rangers. We faced them. We won against them. You had Porto. narrowly managed to draw against them. We had Lyon, so these are all actually decent teams. So the
Hmm.
thing is, if we can put in performances in the Europa League, अगर हम Europa League में constantly, if we show some grit, अगर हम दिखा सकते हैं, why are we not able to transpire that in the Premier League as well?
I think the thing that you said at the start, the logic goes out the window. That is the bottom line. And the other thing is that even though performances haven't really picked up under Amorim ever since he arrived, there still feels like occasionally that the players are trying. Like this is a very easy thing to say around when things are not going. That we say that the players are throwing the manager under the window, under the bus, and they are not playing. They have down tools. That doesn't feel that to be the case with Amorim's player, at least right now. It feels like they are trying, but they are trying like headless chickens. And when the whole thing comes apart, it comes apart spectacularly. So, and I have been talking to some of my friends who actually do work as coaches on a professional level, and I've been trying to understand how bad is it for Amorim, because we know when he arrived that he did not want to arrive mid-season. He was very particular about wanting a pre-season, and I've been
Yeah.
asking them that can things really be this bad, this night and day, if a manager arrives mid-season and does not get the time that he would have in pre-season, and things just don't pick up. Because in the starting matches, it felt like that the 3-4-3 would really come together the way it did for Tuchel and Chelsea. That is the thing that I had in mind when he immediately arrived. But then the performances just completely dried up, and it really hasn't worked out at all in the league. And I would say that if it weren't for the fact that we have half a foot in the final of the Europa League, there is a non-zero chance that Amorim would have been sacked before the end of the season. Because we have to say, even if we are saying that he has arrived mid-season, towards the end of the season, there should be some semblance of progress. There should be something to hold on to. And right now, Europa League performances are the only thing we have to hold on to. That okay, the players are trying, the players are delivering, and if we can shift a few players that we did not want, if we can get the money from the players who have been loaned out and move them on permanently, if he gets a bit more of that squad, and maybe with a cleaner slate, he starts better. And we have seen this with other teams, and in fact, with Ten Hag in his first season, that a mediocre season from before can quickly be turned around, because this is United. They have the funds, they have the pull, and it can be done. But yeah, it's been very bewildering, and that Amorim has come this far with United, I think is good enough to at least get him through the summer. So yeah, let's see what changes we can make. But there is I am at a loss to as to what could be the reason, and this is something that is new for me as well, because I usually, at least I have used to have a lot of reasons in my back pocket as well. Okay, this manager is not working out just because of this manager is not working out because of this. Like with Solskjaer, with Ragnick, with Ten Hag, we had our explanations. With Amorim right now, I'm at a complete loss as to what is happening. And some things have been said around that okay, he's a bit too rigid. That also does not, like, at least from the lineups he chooses, the way he decides to play from the back, both those things don't really hint at the fact that this is an entirely rigid setup compared to someone like Ange Postecoglou, who because of the injuries that he has had, because of the pressure he has had to move around things to a microscopic level in terms of his own rigidity. But that much I do not see in Amorim just yet. If we do going into next season, that would be a trouble for me. But that is one criticism that has gone on his way. But when you look at the fact that he has not done too well at Old Trafford, that Ten Hag was struggling a lot, that every other player you look at feels like they have never kicked a ball before. Something is institutionally not right at United right now, and it needs a proper detox or a deep clean or whatever term we can use to make ourselves understand that this goes much deeper than the personal that currently preside there. So yeah, time is needed, and this first season under the Ineos ownership hasn't really gone to plan at all. From the players that we have brought, which are promising, but again, on paper and on pitch are two very different things. To the fact that the sporting director that we had quoted for so long, the one we had paid all this money for, immediately turned out that the ownership and the director of football were at odds with each other. So that's a bit of a red flag. and not off to a good start. And it remains to be seen how we get ourselves back from there, because a lot of rebuild was already done, and the starting steps needed to be the right ones, and they absolutely haven't been. So yeah, a lot of things that are on paper not going well for Amorim, and it would be quite a miracle, at least for me, if right off the gate next season we are doing well and just go on a run like Chelsea did at the start of the season, where at one point they were talking about titles. It wouldn't I wouldn't get too optimistic by it, but at least it would be an indication that okay, if once Amorim has been given this preseason that he wanted, he has been able to get a kick out of his players. So yeah, that is what I'm looking forward to, because I think we should be able to make the final. I'm still a bit 70-30 about it, but I think we should be enough for a final. And whoever we face on the other side, be it Spurs, be it Boda, even if we don't win the final, it would be gut wrenching. Season will have gone a complete waste. But I think Amorim will have had enough credit in the tank to at least get the preseason, unless something very unprecedented happens and he ends up having a fight with the board and walks out. And so yeah, that is where I am. Like regardless of what happens, Champions League would be a huge bonus in terms of what players we can get. But we have to see what Amorim does in the summer.
That's a fair assessment on Ineos and Amorim, and very well said. Let's talk about some of the players from yesterday as well, because we haven't praised them so far, Anshuman. So first and foremost,
Yeah.
Harry Maguire की कुछ numbers यहाँ पे let's present it. Harry Maguire इसके अगर कल की बात करें, 100% tackle हुआ, 100% tackles won, 100% cross accuracy, 97 pass accuracy, 70 passes completed, 68 passes completed, 2 chances created and 2 clearances. Ek chance I remember. I don't remember the second one, but you know you have to. I was like I mentioned in my previous videos as well. I was like one of the biggest critics of Harry Maguire, but the way that he's picked himself up, especially this season, I think it's a testament to how other players have to present themselves. If there is a drawback or if you are being criticized, you know, if you remember, there were bomb threats, unfortunately, that he was being given by the fan base. But the way that he's changed things around, if you're talking about clutch goals, if you're talking about the ball carrying ability, if you talk about yesterday, he turned into prime Frank Ribery from the right wing. So that was an unbelievable cross. I haven't, honestly speaking, Anshuman यार इस सीजन मैंने किसी को इतना अच्छा क्रॉस देते भी नहीं देखा है. Perfectly leveled, right pace, and that is exactly what happened. We have seen Garnacho giving those low crosses, but honestly, मैंने किसी को इतना अच्छा क्रॉस देते हुए इस सीजन नहीं देखा. So what do you have to say about Harry Maguire's season so far?
In general, I cannot be happier for the man, because like you mentioned the criticisms, we as fans tend to have very short-term memories, because we just want our team to score goals and do well, and very few times we actually think about what we are throwing towards the players in terms of criticism, and how quickly it turns into abuse and just vitriol, which doesn't really amount to anything. And we are seeing that towards a lot of our players right now. And because the criticism is not invalid, the players are not playing well, but how quickly that turns into abuse. And with Maguire, we saw that first and foremost. And when he scored that goal against Lyon, then this is very particularly characteristic of me, that the first thing I thought of was the goal that he did not score against Red Bull Leipzig back in 2020-21 season, where we had won the first 3 games in the Champions League. We were sitting top of the group, and then we lost the other 3 and went back to the Europa League. And in that game, had he scored against Leipzig towards the very end, that would have fetched us the point to just go through the knockouts. So from there, that was around the time where Harry Maguire was the butt of all jokes. He was the conduit for every other criticism that was coming United's way, because everyone was looking at him and saying, oh, he's not a good defender, he's not a good player, he's not a good anything, why is he there? And that criticism had turned into abuse, and it was affecting his performances. Any goal and every goal United conceded at one point had to be Maguire's fault. And so from what happened, from Ten Hag coming in, telling him that, okay, you are not going to be my left-sided centre-back, then taking the captaincy away from him, then putting him on the bench, telling him in no uncertain terms that, look, you are not my player, you are not playing in this club anymore, to then having to bring him back into the team because the injuries require so, and Maguire, at the cost of his international career, sticking there. Because I remember at one point when in Ten Hag's second full season, the West Ham were in for him, and that was a move that would have been actually quite prudent for him in terms of, where he was at this point in his career, and in terms of England playing the Euros next summer. It was very important, and he didn't leave. He stuck in, he put in the work, and I'm just on an individual level, I'm really happy that he's getting his flowers, that he's getting the praises, that he's being recognized for the effort that has always been there. But now, because the United are in such a dire strait that every single player on his own is good enough to get a lot of criticism for not playing well. Maguire has been there long enough, and he's now one of the senior most players, and that he's coming through, that he's leading with example. And I'm on just on a human level, I'm really glad that he's getting some praises for once for the performances that he had always had, but never really got credit for. So yeah, no matter what happens with Maguire, all the criticisms of the past obviously remain the same in terms of his compatibility in what Ten Hag wanted in his left-sided centre back and what he wanted in his right-sided centre back, and the fact that we had overpaid for Maguire more than we should have, which is what we can say for many other players in the squad, because that's a United thing. Those still stand true, but on an individual level, I don't think Maguire got his credit at the time for being one of the best centre backs in the league when United finished third and second in the Solskjaer. In general, the team did not, because the performances, the issues usually lie on the other end of the pitch. And then came the phase where he couldn't put a foot right, and the criticism just resulted in bad performances, and bad performances resulted in more criticism. It was a loop he couldn't get out of. Now he has, and I'm just really happy that he's getting that credit, regardless of what happens going forward. At least we will remember Maguire as the kind of player who stuck in, put in the hard work, and gave all he could for the team. And I think on a and this is something that again reflects how poor things are with United, that we have to give flowers to a player who very visibly is giving his all for the team. And even though it's an institutional issue at United, that is not the same that we can say for every player.
Well, definitely. Harry Maguire deserves his flowers. Another player that deserves his flower, Anshuman. And again, who was getting a lot of scrutiny is Season B. There was a famous quote that was given by Jamie Carragher.
Yes.
Leave the football before the football leaves you. Well, let's get back to it now, which is Uncle Casemiro, should I say. The man for the big occasion, Mr. European Casemiro. So, if you talk about his game yesterday, if you just talk about his stats, 106 touches he had, 100% aerial duels, 5 out of 5 duels. So 72 passes completed, 4 clearances, 4 tackles attempted, 3 tackles, 1 goal. And if you remember his contribution in the previous game as well, he won 1 penalty for us in the dying moments, and he provided 2 crucial assists to Maino and Harry Maguire. So again, Casemiro, bringing up his Real Madrid genes and fusioning it with Manchester United, and once he actually brings that up, right, he's a different animal altogether in that midfield. So what do you have to say about Casemiro?
So I'm happy for him, again, on individual level, that he's getting his praises. And I feel like from a tactical standpoint, what Amorim has moved towards, at least for the Europa League, is working out. Because if there's one thing we know about both Casemiro and Manuel Ugarte, is that these are not exceptional on-the-ball players like you have with Rodri, like you have with Pedri and Gavi. Like, these are the world-class examples, cream of the crop stuff that we can talk about. These two are not those kind of players in general, period. So to have these in your defensive pivot and expect them to move the ball around and then hold the ball the way those players can is unreasonable, because again, that's like asking a fish to climb a tree. So this setup that Amorim has, at least in the Europa League, where we are counter-attacking first, we are tackling the opposition, we are snatching the balls, we are moving the ball around in a quick way, we are relying on the transitions once again, which again seems to be our forte. This serves Casemiro, and again, this is it's good to see that it's working out in a way that his age is becoming less and less of a concern. And then again, we have to say that the criticism regarding Casemiro's performances was not unfounded. But again, as fans, our criticism very quickly ends into abuse, and abuse that is surrounded by opinions that don't really mean much. So Carragher said that leave football before football leaves you. It's an excellent line. I'll give him that. But that is also not that does not also give us the full picture, because things are going this bad at a football club, where if you talk about players that are looking good on an individual level, you can count them on one hand. and players that have looked like they have never kicked a ball before, as is everyone else, then you have to turn around and say something else is going wrong. And it's good that Casemiro has had this decent string of performances. It does not change the fact that he is an aging player. It does not change the fact that he is an expensive gamble United made at the time that they still have not made up for. If we consider Ugarte an all-out solution, then maybe. I don't think so, and I don't think that he would be a single-handed solution in Amorim's setup as well. I think we are going to need that midfielder who is so good at the ball in deep areas that someone like Ugarte can just ping off of him. So again, that remains to be seen. And now that because we have the Saudi Pro League to make sure that United are able to cut their losses and get decent money in turn for not just United, any Premier League club, we'll see that with Salah next season as well, probably. So yeah, but I think in turn this has turned out just about fine for United. And Casemiro being in this form is a great sign for us going into those two matches, the second leg against Athletic and the final. So that's where we want Uncle Casemiro at its very best. So yeah, these are the positions that he shines in. We remember the season when he arrived at United in 22. He was the man of he was one of the best players of the Champions League final in that summer when Real Madrid lifted the Champions League. So once again, this is his Europa League is a tier below him, but he is older than he used to be. And I still think he has at least two decent performances in him to deliver us to the promised land once again, to make sure that next summer, regardless whether he is at the club or not, United are in a better place, and he has played his part in it. So yeah.
You know what I have to say about such players, Anshuman, players such as Casemiro? These guys are serial winners, and these guys, what they do is they make winning contagious. Now, if you talk about the Premier League, that's a completely different story altogether, of course. But when it comes to the cup, when it comes to the cup competitions, even if you saw Rafael Varane the previous season, he was unfit most of the time. But if you look at his masterclass in the final against Man City in the FA Cup, you know, it goes to show how hungry these players are to actually lift these trophies despite winning it a lot of times in their career in the past, and which is why we need such players. And yes, in terms of ability, we can improve, I'm sure. But like I said, when it comes to clutch, when it comes to defending those set pieces, I think there's no one better than Casemiro in terms of heading the ball away off the Ranger, and even in terms of being a threat when there's a ball which is coming in. I think there's no one better than Casemiro in terms of putting the ball back in the net. And let's not forget that he was crucial in terms of us winning the Carabao Cup as well against a very good Newcastle side. So I'm just glad for him. And if we get some solid performances in the final two games, he'll get another trophy. He's won a trophy every season for United, and he might end up winning another trophy for United this season. So, a serious winner. I think he'll be winning every for 8 or 9 consecutive seasons. He'll be winning something or the other. First with Real Madrid and now with United. So I'm glad. Now let's shift to Bruno Fernandes, our captain. All right, 37 goals and assists by his season. Again, in this Manchester United team, again with Bruno as well. When he was under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, when we had a lot of quality, you could say we had Paul Pogba, we had Cavani. You could say Fred was an engine, and then you had Martial and Rashford and Greenwood who were firing all cylinders. Compared to this squad, that squad looks like Real Madrid. So Bruno Fernandes, he used to frustrate me because it used to feel like, okay, he's wasting a lot of balls, he's shooting here and there. But now you actually start valuing him when you get to see the other players are not able to do anything, and when you want to basically bank on someone to get a goal or an assist, he's your number one person. Like one-on-one जो chance है ना, अगर Bruno Fernandes की जगह Anshuman, if it was a Garnacho or maybe even a Højlund, I wouldn't have been confident at all. But since it was Bruno, I was calm. So, the dynamic that he's brought to United this season especially, I think the winning contagious वाली चीज मैंने कही ना, I think उसको भी खून लग चुका है अपने मुंह में ना. FA Cup जीता, Carabao जीता, he's hungry for the Europa League now. What do you have to say?
Well, I was talking about how, from manager to players, almost everyone at Manchester United feels like an amateur. And the players that look good can be counted on one hand. So Bruno Fernandes is that player who you can count he's doing well on an individual level, even if the team are not exactly doing. that well, and you could make a tactical argument how his limitations in terms of cohesion with the rest of the team can be a challenge for Amorim going forward. But I think it's a doable challenge. And when you are delivering numbers at the rate for now Bruno is, it's very hard to take him out of the team as well. And I don't think we should either, because players that can thrive the way he's thriving in situations as adverse as United have right now, we need those players. Because right now we have a lot of those players that are good, not looking very poor, but are good players, and who would thrive if they were put in a thriving environment, if they were put in a positive environment. But this is something that we could talk say for United for at least past 3-4 seasons, and if things don't turn out good for us in the future over the next 2-3 seasons as well, that we have an institutional problem. So that those players will be more and more frequent in abundance. But players like Bruno, who even when the things are not going well, are able to turn out performances like he's doing year in year out, not just this season but in the previous seasons as well. We need those players, and I'm really happy that he's there for us right now, because, like you said, when it comes to Xerxes, Højlund, good on paper, good players on paper, really, really not doing well. And regardless of whatever happens with them, we need someone to deliver goals for us in the here and now. And Fernandes was there for us in the FA Cup final last time round, and I hope he's there to finish the goals in the Europa League final as well, just like he did in the midweek. So yeah, really, really need him, and I hope he stays part of our setup going forward.
But yes, Bruno Fernandes के बारे में भी डिस्कस कर लिया. Champion player, is performing really well. And एक और जिसके बारे में मैं silently यहाँ पे बोलना चाह रहा हूँ, वो subtly अपना काम कर रहा है, वो है Lenny Yoro. Lenny Yoro, when he joined United, there were a lot of people who were saying, why has he joined United? Real Madrid was the best possible option for him. He's going to ruin his career. Then he had a slow start to his career. He got injured first, then he had a slow start against. If you remember the game against Southampton, who was the winger on the left who was skinning him throughout the game? I forgot the name of that player. There was that performance, but steadily, the way that he's now bringing in his presence as one of the key defenders in United is also something which has impressed me a lot in terms of his ball carrying ability, in terms of his anticipation, tracking back, recovery pace. It's all there. So I'm actually quite excited for Lenny Yoro. And दूसरी बात अंशुमन क्या होती है ना, when you stop missing another good player, you could say, Lisandro Martinez, he's injured. United fans, he's injured. I hope you remember Lisandro Martinez. वो injured है, but no one's actually missing him. So that goes to show that your defense, despite conceding a lot of goals in the Premier League, you're still quite confident with Lenny Yoro, Harry Maguire at this moment of time, and Dinete is what you could see. So I'm glad that we're not missing Lisandro Martinez. जिस हद तक हम basically Amad Diallo को miss करते हैं when he's injured or Kobe Mainoo. So few words on Lenny Yoro's performance as well.
Yes, so it was very unfortunate when he had arrived, and that he got injured right away, because it was a worrying injury. And when it comes to young players, it's even more important, because career एकदम शुरू हुआ है, आपके पास कोई पेडिग्री नहीं है, कोई एक्सपीरियंस नहीं है to tell yourself that look, this gets better. And जो आपके long term injuries होती हैं, that can hamper performances of any player at any career. But to happen for something like that to happen at 18 is even more delicate. So pressure आपके पर already है, because एक आप इतने बड़े price tag के साथ आ रहे हो, दूसरा आप यूनाइटेड में आ रहे हो, तो things are going to go against you. So you need everything you can to just make things work on your own. So starting it was worrying, and again it takes very little time for your own fans to turn on you. So Euro के साथ starting में वो वाली चीज थी that I was a bit worried about. Then I have seen, I can just take 2 examples. एक Anthony Martial का अपना favorite player, because he was a Frenchman who arrived as a teenager at the club, and if the club had a slightly better planning in terms of how to develop him, how to develop the squad in general, if we were a bit more coherent, if we were not as much of a circus as we are, maybe we would have had a much different career for what Martial turned out to be. And I wouldn't say that he was a poor player. I'm going to say he was an above par player, but that is not something that we had envisioned for him. That is not something we had envisioned for United. And that is what I'm worried about with Euro as well, that he's another teenager who has arrived with a lot of promise, looked really good in Liga, but very quickly things can turn sour, especially when you have the kind of injury that you do. And in that term, we have seen with someone like Wesley Fofana, who has had multiple injuries on both of his feet in Chelsea. He arrived with a heavy price tag at Chelsea, having been injured at Leicester, and he was one of the best defenders, even as someone in his early 20s, and he just cannot stop getting injured. It's really unfortunate, and I really hope that it changes for him at some point. But that is the example that I'm using to make a point that how quickly things can snowball, even in terms of injuries. Even when you are in a good environment, things can really turn out to be rather poor, rather unfortunate. So on that front, I really hope that Euro is not as plagued by injuries in the coming years, or for the throughout for the entirety of his career, for that matter. But yeah, from where he has brought himself back in terms of performances, it is exemplary, because you have had a managerial change, and the requirements are completely different by the new guy. But even when you have had that injury, even though you are this young, this early in your career, you look at home. You are not looking any worse than the players around you, the much more experienced players around you. In fact, you are one of the few lights जिनको देख के लग रहा है कि हाँ ठीक है, अगले 1-2 साल अपने ठीक जाएंगे, अगर प्लेयर्स थोड़ा इस तरीके से खेल के इसके ऊपर कुछ बिल्ड कर पाए. So the fact that he is able to present that example at all is brilliant. So United signed a lot of good players in the summer. आर्ग्यूमेंट किया जा सकता है कि ये प्लेयर एक पर्टिकुलर नहीं खरीदना चाहिए था, इस प्लेयर के लिए ओवर पे कर दिया. वी कैन मेक दैट आर्ग्यूमेंट, बट दैट दीज आर गुड प्लेयर्स इज नॉट इन क्वेश्चन, एटलीस्ट फॉर मी. इंडिविजुअल लेवल में सारे के सारे अच्छे प्लेयर्स आए हैं. यूरो इज वन ऑफ दोस प्लेयर्स. रियल मैड्रिड वांटेड हिम, दे वर विलिंग टू गो toe to toe, and the fact that he put them aside for the time being to move for us, that ek to chalo that is a decision that on in itself we can deliberate upon. But this is a player with a high pedigree, and he has shown us that promise, and it is now incumbent upon us as a club to make sure that we can bring about the environment changes that we desperately need, to bring in more players like him, both on a developmental level and players who are in the prime of their lives, who can immediately deliver us good performances. So yeah, Lenny Euro, definitely the kind of player we need more of.
Well, yes, I think you have to praise all these players that we just spoke about. Also, shout out to Nusayr Mazraoui. He also played a very good game yesterday, just for 12 million, a bargain. I think he has also been one of the signings of the season. Who I'm worried about, I think Dorgu yesterday and Ugarte in the first 20 minutes, they were getting pressed quite easily by Athletic Bilbao. And if they were a little more technically sound, I think they would have bagged a goal or two. But Casemiro saved us a couple of times. Lindelof as well. We still have Lindelof. It's his 8th year running. I hope yaar jaldi se jaldi resolve ho. Lindelof ko koi अच्छा club मिले, Johnny Evans को कोई अच्छा club मिले. We do not need these guys. आपकी services हमें मिल गई, but we need to be better than this. But yeah, I'm glad. और यार एक अभी recently news आई है, इस पे end करेंगे हम फिर. What do you have to say about this? That Surgeon Ratcliffe जो है OGC Nice को, he's basically having talks, and he's basically made a decision by himself that he's willing to sell the club for a good price. So OGC. So I think what he's trying to do is he's trying to reclaim more of a share of Manchester United. That is something that might be another positive. Maybe might be getting us off the shackles of the Glazer ownership to a large extent. What do you have to say about that?
So at least as far as Nice are concerned, the Nice fans have been concerned for a while now, even before the United investment came through, that the Ineos ownership is not as interested in boosting the club's fortune as they once were when they initially had come on board. So they were a bit disillusioned anyway. And the fact that Ineos did increase its ownership in United a while ago, very marginally, but at least that shows us an intent as well, that okay, this is a club, this is a company that is interested. Even we may not agree with their methods, but they are interested in making a big deal, making a big project of United. So yeah, both of those things in conjunction indicate at the fact that they may push for more. They may push for more investment in the club, and maybe they might look at a more strategical solution in terms of having a sister club, because we know that at least companies like Ineos and Clear Lake, Todd Boehly and Chelsea, who know that they don't really have an infinite wealth of a state-backed sovereign fund. So we know that they don't have infinite money, and they need to come up with a more strategic, sustainable solution, even whether it's a one club model or a multi club model. So I think we already have a sister club in Switzerland. The name kind of slips my mind right now, via Ineos, and it would not surprise me if they sell their shares in Nice, invest a bit more in United, and at the same time acquire another club elsewhere, be it France, be it anywhere else in mainland Europe. So yeah, all things, at least for now, as far as their intentions are concerned, hints at them making a more central, bigger project of Man United, and building whatever sporting portfolio they are going to around it.
So that sister club that you were talking about, it's FC Lausanne Sport. If I'm not, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correct or not.
Lausanne. Oh, right, right.
Lausanne, yeah, FC Lausanne Sport.
Yeah.
So yes. All right, so that's about it, यार अंशुमन. बड़ा मजा आया, काफी टाइम बाद तुम्हारे से बात हुई, and I hope you're a regular. And the reason why his camera isn't on is because guys, he's not well. All right, काफी तेज बुखार था. Apparently Anshuman had typhoid, but I hope he'll be back soon. भाई जल्दी से camera अपना on करना. We'll be having Dinete and Paritosh as well back, and we'll be more consistent. As consistent and as Manchester United's run in the Europa League, not Premier League. All right. And
I have to point that out, yes.
और भाई मतलब सबसे कमाल की बात ये, लास्ट सीजन अगर देखे ना, बस इस पे एंड करने था. लास्ट सीजन अगर हम देखे, we were not qualifying for the Champions League, we were not qualifying for the Europa League, we won the FA Cup and qualified for the Europa League. Again, this season we are not qualifying for the Champions League or the Europa League, but we can qualify for the Champions League by winning the Europa League. So why is it that we always do things the hard way? Why can't we just top 4 secure कर लो, उसके बाद यूरोपा लीग भी देख लेंगे, हर चीज मुश्किल से कर. And it'll be funny अगर हम चैंपियंस लीग पे क्वालिफाई हुए next season. Obviously, we won't be the favorites by no specific margin. Would we be the favorites next season? But it'll be so funny if we end up winning the Champions League somehow. And अगर हो गया भाई, अगर हो गया, clip this, we will go viral. ये हमारा चैनल अलग ही लेवल पे बूस्ट हो जाएगा. अगर just in case it happens.
have to put it out there at least to make sure कि मतलब कल को अगर होता भी है, even if it happens, कहीं भी होता है, knockouts तक भी चले जाते हैं. हाँ, हमने कहा था.
बिल्कुल. But yeah, it was a very nice, it was a wonderful night in Europe once again. I hope second leg भी और अच्छा जाए, game management अच्छा हो, Ruben Amorim की तरफ से, Bruno Fernandes की leadership, Casemiro, Harry Maguire, Amad Diallo. By the way, we did not speak about it, but I'm very excited that he's back. And his presence now gives me confidence that we can end up winning this entire thing, because his presence is something which will prove to be monumental, and we saw that in yesterday's 5-minute cameo as well. He's different gravy altogether. So yeah, I just hope we end up winning that game. It's a formality, and of course there will be butterflies in our stomach, because the first 30-40 minutes would be key. एक बार वो निकल गया, then I'll be a little, pressure थोड़ा सा release होगा. What do you think? Second leg में, do you feel the pressure?
I will feel the pressure, because you also pointed out the Coventry game where we were 3-0 up and then almost lost it. So एक तो वाली चीज याद रहेगी, and second the Lyon game that we had, यहाँ 2 गोल खाने के बाद भी we conceded 4 goals, so it is not out of the question. So definitely I will not be resting until we hit the full time, and then I see कि 8-9 minute कुछ रह गए हैं, and अभी भी we are like at least 3 goals up. If that happens, then I may be like, okay, you know what, इतना गंदा तो अपन भी नहीं खेल सकते. But then again, there's a big if, because that is how little faith I have in our defense right now. Not because कि इनसे 1 goal concede नहीं होगा, but because इनसे 1 हो गया तो फिर कोई guarantee नहीं है कि कितना रोक पाएंगे. So that is where I am with this United defense. But yeah, on paper this is as good. अगर आपको भाई कहते हैं ना इंग्लिश में, मतलब अगर आपको स्टार्टिंग में you were given this chance going into the second leg, a 3-0 advantage, one of their players suspended, so they are already on slightly even weaker foot, you would have wiped their hand off, and that is exactly it. So United are in as good a condition as they can be. लीग में आपके पास खेलने के लिए बचा नहीं है, आपके पूरे यंगस्टर्स के ला लो, they'll probably do a better job anyway, and then go gung ho for the next midweek game. So yeah, United should be winning this. If they don't, it will just be, well, अभी तो unspeakable ही लग रहा है, but we'll see what happens. But yeah, by all things considered, giving the Europa League form, I think they should be through to the final, and then we'll see.
भाई इस टीम ने हमें कितना ट्रॉमा दिया पिछले 7-8 सालों में, because 3-0 की लीड है, अगर कोई और टीम होती कंफर्टेबली क्रूज कर रही होती. अगर पेनल्टीज में जाते हैं तो हम बोलते कि आंड्रे ओनाना है, ही इज नॉट गोना डू एनीथिंग. उसके बाद अगर टॉटनहम मिलती है, टॉटनहम मिलेगी, हम बोलेंगे कि भाई टॉटनहम में 3 बार हराया हुआ है, दिस माइट बी द फोर्थ टाइम दैट दे बीट अस. सो मतलब इस मतलब इतना ट्रॉमा मिला है ना पिछले 6-7 साल में, हमें कोई भरोसा नहीं है until the final whistle is blown and we actually end up lifting that trophy.
Exactly.
कसम से. Anyways, I hope everything ends well. Yesterday's game was a magical one. I hope the second leg also turns out to be fruitful for us. We storm our way to the finals, and regardless of who it is, be it Tottenham or Bordeaux, we have to win this. We have to win this Europa League because it will turn out to be significant in terms of our progress for next season. It'll actually give us a lot of funds. It will give us that reputation, that revived reputation once again. It will basically help Ruben Amorim and Ineos as well, Jim Ratcliffe. They're looking for something to motivate them even more, and even the players. And like I said, winning eventually becomes infectious. If we win a third trophy in the third season running, then these players will actually have the hunger to win more as they go on. So fingers crossed, भाई. देखते हैं अब अगले मैच से पहले या तो प्रीव्यू करेंगे या रिव्यू करेंगे. लेट्स सी. अभी तो परसों मैच है ना अगेंस्ट बोर्नमथ. irrelevant भाई. प्रीमियर लीग खिलाओ चीडो, मार्टिन और हैरी अमा सबको भाई. It doesn't matter. And the big one is on Friday यहाँ पे 12:30 बजे. So let's see what happens भाई. अंशुमन मजा आया and we'll be back with more content on One United. तब तक के लिए guys take care, and Anshuman, you too take care. We'll be back soon. Bye
Bye, Wali. Bye, everyone.